Can you introduce yourself in Chinese?
我叫白一天，我现在在台大留学。我出生长大在明尼苏达州，可是从3岁到7岁我住在上海。I don't really remember living in Minnesota before that, so like my first memories are all kind of in Shanghai. When you're a white kid in China, it's like people will just come up to you and they'll touch your face, they'll put their hands through your hair, just like come up to you and just they want to take a picture with you, they want to hold you, they want to touch you, everything like that. And it's just like
that's insane.
It's crazy because
fucking crazy.
Because in the U.S. that would, if someone did that, bro, that would not be chill.
No, not at all. How's your time been here so far? If you could just kind of give it a roundup.
When I first got here, it was kind of like a culture shock. On my street, where I live, probably a car will pass every minute or so. But here it's hundreds of mopeds. When you're crossing the street and the light turns green, it's just this roar of moped engines starting up, and then just this wave that goes past. Everything here is so cheap that it's so easy to just buy a lot. It's really interesting because in the U.S., right, everything's so expensive that you almost want to buy less. But here, because there's a 7-Eleven on every fucking block, I'll be walking and I'll just I'll go in and I'll be all right, I'm gonna get some Pocky, or I'm gonna get a drink or something like that. And then later in the day I'll be passing by another 7-Eleven and I'm all right, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go in and eat, and so I've been spending so much money on just stupid stuff that I do not need. When I say Pocky, I have an addiction for sure. I've eaten way too much Pocky. It's so good.
What's your Pocky budget a month? How much do you?
Bro, I don't even know. Dude, I've figured it all out, and I know how much of a discount I get when I buy 3 versus when I buy 2.
You are addicted.
So it was. There was probably a month and a half where I was eating Pocky every single day.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was bad.
Damn, that's dark.
I'm off of that now, but
sound like a recovering addict. Yeah. 那你最喜欢台湾的吃的是什么？
Oh.
你不会特别喜欢台湾菜吗？
我就是觉得台湾菜比不上中国菜。
哇。
Yeah.
OK. 怎么说？
因为中国这么大，有就是每个地方都有不一样的菜肴。
对啊。
可是，在台湾差不多
都一样，都是牛肉面、臭豆腐这样。
臭豆腐太不好吃了。我就喜欢7-Eleven
Pocky
对，因为这个非常方便的。
所以你不喜欢蚵仔煎那种的？
不太喜欢。
很诚实啊。
对，很诚实。对不起。Socially, Taiwan is fantastic, right? There's nightlife here, which is crazy. There's bars, clubs, just all kinds of things that you can do. The nightlife is just it's great, and so it's a lot more fun, I would say personally, than nightlife in Minnesota. Yeah.
Could imagine it being kind of overwhelming in a way, where you have so many options and just so much stuff to do that you can't even concentrate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that definitely when I first got here, it was a overload, because I was kind of oh my god, I have so many options. I can just do whatever I want. And staying at home and watching a movie or something just seems so unappealing, because I was bro, why would I do that when I could just be out?
Living right in the middle of the city, you could ride a bike to the club.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. Yeah. I take a U-bike there.
Do you feel that women here are actually interested in dating foreigners, and if so, are all women interested, or just some?
From what I can tell, it's kind of sort of half and half, but I definitely have encountered people who just are totally not interested in me. So
the stereotype is that if you're white here, you're gonna find a date right away. I've heard that from many Taiwanese people.
It's there if I want it, which is I feel it's kind of a hard topic to talk about, because I don't want to sort of indulge the white privilege that I have here. I don't really want to sort of be defined by the fact that I'm a white guy who goes on dates with like Asian women or something. Like I don't
course
really,
not. Yeah, it's
I don't
not
want,
you.
I don't want that. 有的时候我就是跟我的室友是台湾人，我就是说，哎，为什么这个看起来有点丑的人，跟一个很美丽的台湾女生，然后他会笑，他会说我也不知道。
在街头上，你听到别人说“外国人”这个词，你有什么感觉？
走路到学校的时候，我常常会听到外国人。有的时候我觉得是好笑，有的时候让我生气一点，因为我会说中文，我听得懂你说的话，可是我不想就是告诉每个人我会说中文，我听得到，我听得懂你说的话，因为这个是很麻烦的事情。It's just like frustrating for me because like no matter how good my Chinese gets, I will always encounter that.
Yeah, always.
Always.
Trust me, it's not gonna stop.
Yeah.
Have you ever actually said anything to someone?
The only times that like I've ever said anything is like I'll be like walking at night or something like that, and there'll be like some drunk college students behind me. What I've done a couple times is like I've like pointed something out about them in Chinese, like they'll like be laughing, and then I'll turn around and I'll like say something about like what they're wearing or something.
You're like, oh shit, can't be saying that. Yeah, that happened. I was running the other day, and there's two old guys like also like walking in the park.
Yeah.
And they saw this foreign woman, and they're like, wow. 你看那个外国女生，她屁股好大。
Yeah.
And I'm just like, turn around like, yeah, 屁股好大。
Yeah.
Just like, that's not cool. You can't say shit like that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's just like, it's kind of like those moments where like you like make fun of them in Chinese, and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, just kind of like mind blown.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I wish in those moments I was more patient, but at the same time, it's like, it's a teachable moment to be like, not everyone just comes over here, fucks around and leaves. Like, people are invested in learning the language, the culture.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that, isn't talked about very often.
So your dad's a Chinese teacher now. Interesting. Okay.
Crazy.
So like, that's also kind of crazy because he studied Chinese before it was cool.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like
Yeah.
he was studying Chinese, in the 80s and 90s?
He went off to college and took Chinese for 2 years, and kind of the same results. He wasn't really doing very well, and his teacher told him, listen, you either got to switch languages or you got to go to China. I mean, no one spoke English there. Like, no one spoke English. And so he had to navigate, a world 8,000 miles away from home with no way of contacting his family.
You lived in China, and your dad is now a Chinese teacher. Is that kind of like laid the foundation in your mind that like Chinese is important to learn and appreciate?
It's so helpful. It's so helpful to be able to speak more languages than your native tongue. For my dad to, push that on me and just be like, I want you to learn Chinese, I think I'm incredibly grateful that he did that.
So as a kid, did you have any kind of pushback towards that? Like, I don't
absolutely.
want to learn.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had to go to like Saturday school or Sunday school for Chinese like every week, and man, I hated that. Like, that sucked. Like, like all my friends were, going to like baseball or football games, and I was just stuck in this classroom at a nearby college, like taking Chinese classes, and I was just like, dude,
Fuck my life.
like you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, this sucks.
这很明显，你在北京或者在大陆学中文。
对，很多人就是他跟我说话的时候，他说：“哎，你在大陆学的中文，对不对？”
你有想一次调整你的口音吗？就是比较有人情味的样子。
我喜欢我的口音，我就是
对你的特色。
我的特色就是我的特色，因为我是外国人，我现在留学在台湾，可是我有大陆的口音，所以就是很多人就觉得，哎，这个外国人跟别的外国人很不一样。
And how has living here changed your views on China?
I mean, like, people talk shit about China a lot here.
Yeah, they do. What would you tell Taiwanese people about your views on the subject if you think it wouldn't influence them? Because I understand you want to hear their perspective. Like, what's your kind of angle on it?
I feel kind of like I have a different perspective from a lot of other people here because I've lived there. And so I think that, like I just said, I don't really like the government, but I love the country, and so it's like hard to like kind of convey that to people here, because they don't really understand it. Because a lot of people here have never been to China,
Yeah, they might have never
you know,
ever met a Chinese person.
Exactly.
And, like, you've been around Chinese people, you know they're not evil.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that like it's hard to communicate that to somebody without coming across like I am a supporter of China or something like that.
Yeah, it's touchy.
Which is like interesting because it's like, you know, if you talk to me for a while, then like I'm able to convey that to them. But initially, that's kind of why I always ask them, what do you think first? Because then I can explain my side.
I think you'd be surprised if you talk to people that are like my age and older,
Really?
because you know, the Taiwanese history of people coming over here in '49. There's that group of people that still feel culturally connected to China.
Yeah.
And like, so, but it's interesting to hear you and your interactions with young people, and that's like completely gone at this point.
Yeah.
So they don't feel any kind of connection to China,
No.
like the literature, the art, kind of the history, nothing.
No, because I mean, I remember reading about this somewhere, I'm not sure where, but I mean, like recently Taiwan decided that they were going to stop teaching Chinese history first. They were going to start teaching Taiwanese history and then eventually teach Chinese history later, right? And so a lot of people here who are my age grew up with Taiwanese history, and like then they learned Chinese history, and so they like learned about like the bad things that China has done. Whereas like when you learn about something from like a really young age, like when you learn Chinese history from like a really young age, I feel like it's like harder to feel animosity or like anger towards China.